What's up, Marvelites, and welcome to a brand new episode of the MCUExchange podcast. This is episode 47. Woo!
Woo!
My name is Aaron. I'll be your host for this episode. Alongside me is Charles.
What's up?
Hey, and Joe.
Hello.
Hey, it's a great MCU week once again, guys. Well, cap off by WandaVision, but there are also news and trailers along the way. Let's get right to it in the rundown. Here we go. First up, we have a new trailer, guys, of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier that premiered in last Sunday's Super Bowl, which is surprising. It originally aired as a 30-second TV spot, and then the whole trailer dropped like minutes after on social media. And wow, it has Zemo, it has the Flag Smashers, it has Sam wielding Cap Shield briefly, and also the dynamic between Bucky and Sam. Charles, what do you think about the trailer?
The trailer was surprisingly very, for the lack of a better word, very hip. I saw someone sort of describe it like a Fast and the Furious trailer, where it's just the music is very contemporary, the way they're sort of portraying, or at least Simon Bucky's very body cop style. So it's a far cry from the stuff we were seeing in WandaVision. But yeah, Fast and the Furious, I've never been that much of a fan, but I always saw or understood why people appreciate it, because it's like super fun. The characters shit on each other. It's something that you'd get a lot of laughs from, and it kind of seems like they're really sort of aping the body cops theme here, where at the end, there's like a stare off. It's almost too wacky. At least it's a very, very wacky way of seeing Sam and Bucky sort of hate on each other. But again, it's very funny, great action. Zemo sort of carrying that mask in that shot looked super cool. Also,
Yeah.
Sharon Carter kicking some ass in that shipyard and whatnot. It's all really cool, and I cannot wait to see more of John Walker, because it's so weird that we keep seeing the same shot of John Walker running through that football field, high-fiving that guy. We've been seeing it since Super Bowl, I think, last year. That's the shot we've been seeing, and it's been more than a year now. We're still not seeing any of it, any of the other John Walker stuff, and it's pretty weird. Unless every scene he's in is like a super, super big spoiler, I don't see why they're keeping it a secret.
Joe, how about you? Your thoughts about the trailer?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same path. I like the comedy. I think one of the best parts of Civil War was Falcon and Bucky just kind of going at it, pissing each other off. So it's an interesting dynamic we haven't really explored that much in the Marvel universe, I think, and I'm excited to see it. To some degree, I wonder how much is this trailer design, like how much is the comedy, the set pieces, and the way they frame it, is that mostly what just the trailer is to get people's attention? And will the show, because like the initial time we saw, or the first time we ever saw it, like last year in the Super Bowl, God, it's been over a year. It was less jokey. It seemed to have a bit more, even if it was like short snippets, it had like this serious vibe. So I think we're gonna have a nice balance, and they're hiding the U.S. agent, Wyatt Russell's character, quite a bit. So I'm curious why, or if they want to like really pull that in the last minute and be like, Captain America's back, and people that just didn't really follow it were unsure about it, just to hook them a week before it airs. But I think it's a great trailer. I love Bucky and Sam's chemistry. They play off of each other extremely well. So and they did tease that it's kind of like a Tom Clancy story. So Tom Clancy with Fast and Furious sounds like a lot of fun. So I'm quite excited for it.
Yeah, and it's going to be very different from WandaVision because it's action-packed from the get-go. And that's the beauty of the MCU. You don't know what to expect. And then from a weird sitcom fabricated reality, we'll go over to a action-packed globe-trotting adventure in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which comes out next month on March 19th. Kind of exciting. A day after the Snyder Cut. Weird.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
The,
more content for March.
the weekend is gonna be super busy for, I think, every nerdy fan, because there's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot to unpack. And I wonder, because we got 2 episodes for WandaVision when it first came out. I wonder if we're gonna get 2 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because there's only
Yeah.
like 6 episodes. It'll be, I guess, weird if they put 2 out right away, and then there's like 1 month of Falcon and the Winter Soldier content. I imagine that it's probably just gonna be one episode,
Yeah.
especially if it's like an hour.
Yeah, it's an hour. Like it's not like going to be a 20-minute, 30-minute like the WandaVision show, and it's going to be great. It's going back to the MCU roots, like 1 hour per episode. But I do believe in the next three episodes of WandaVision, it's going to be an hour. I think, based on previous
Yeah,
quotes from Kevin
hopefully
Feige.
because we're gonna talk
Yeah.
about it later, but seeing the please stand by stuff so
Sucks.
fast, it's kind of like, oh, what the fuck.
Yeah, let's do a deep dive about that later. But then let's move on to another property and the Phase 4 of Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's Captain Marvel 2, because the sequel has found its villain. According to Deadline, Velvet Buzzaw's Zaw Ashton has been cast as the main villain in the Captain Marvel sequel. However, the outlet didn't specify the exact villain who Ashton will be portraying. Let's go to speculation, guys. All right. It's going to be a generic question, but it makes sense. Joe, who do you think is Zaw Ashton playing in Captain Marvel 2?
That's a big question.
No,
I
right
think
off
the most common theory right now is that she potentially is Veranke, or I don't know how you say the name exactly, the Skrull Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Though I'm still on the fence about the whole Secret Invasion storyline with Captain Marvel 2. I kind of don't think that the Skrulls are going to be the bad guys, so I don't think she's playing that. Maybe they'll introduce the character of Moondragon this way, and then kind of connect it to Guardians of the Galaxy, which is now supposed to air after it. I have no idea. I'm really curious. I think a lot of people also think that she might, that the Skrull Queen is the daughter of Talos, which would also be really confusing.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how theories are. I think theories are going by the comics a lot. I personally think that the Kree are going to be the main bads in Secret Invasion. It makes sense, because that we have seen them hide as humans. I have no idea who she could be. It's a really curious casting. We don't know exactly which direction, because we all kind of thought that Captain Marvel 2 is going to be Secret Invasion, but now there's a Secret Invasion Disney Plus show as well. So who knows at this point?
Yeah. It's going to be crazy. And Charles, I have a different question for you. Do you think that, with this casting, do you think that this villain for Captain Marvel 2 will be Earthbound or Spacebound?
I hope Spacebound, because it's kind of like those things where in Transformers, it is so weird to see so many human characters more than actual Transformers. And in this case, it'll be disappointing if like the entire movie has some Earth-based villain rather than a space-bound character. By the way, when I say space-bound, I don't mean like it has to be a fucking alien cosmic force. It can be an Earthling, but I want to see someone whose powers can sort of match Carol's cosmic abilities. And I know that Verank is one of those characters that people sort of are speculating Ashton to be playing, but for me, the most obvious one, just because she's Carol's nemesis in the comic, is Moonstone.
Yeah.
Moonstone is basically like an evil mirror version of Carol Danvers. She's a scientist. She has some sort of powers that is very similar to Carol Danvers, and they've been sort of butting heads ever since back in the day. So it will make sense that she's that specific character. But like Joe said, we have Secret Invasion, some stuff that may tie into um to that movie, into Captain Marvel. So I do wonder if it is Moonstorm, maybe if it's like a Skrull Queen. But I was also thinking yesterday while I was writing the article, what if they sort of combine both, in that she's a Skrull
Hmm.
who has infiltrated Earth, but she's also somewhat of like amalgamation of Moonstone, where she's a Skrull that actually manages to get like powers similar to Super Skrull, where she's you get best of both worlds. It ties into Secret Invasion, and she's not just some fucking normal Skrull that can shapeshift. She can shapeshift, and she has fucking powers that rivals Carol's. I thought that was a pretty interesting way of doing it. I wonder if that's gonna be the route they go, but who knows at this point. But it's safe to say it's either gonna be something Secret Invasion related or Moonstone. I'd be super surprised if it's like neither of the characters we mentioned.
Yeah. It's really hard to speculate because it's too early to tell right now, because they haven't started production yet. The
Yeah,
results
even
have.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And but what we know is that Monica Rambo will be there.
Yeah.
Kamala Khan will be there, so Zell Ashton will have 3 heroes going after her. It's gonna be tough. And now let's move on to another MCU film, another casting for another MCU film. It's a rumor, by the way. This is for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because they have found another otherworldly being. Because the direct reports in an exclusive that Adam Uhill, I don't know, a rising actor who has appeared in BBC America's The Watch and the critically acclaimed 1917, has joined the cast of the Doctor Strange sequel. Their sources indicate that Ugil is likely playing Rintra, an alien minotaur who possesses magic powers in Marvel Comics. Hmm, another magic being in the multiverse of madness. All right. Don't know much about this character, but should I have a generic question here for you, Charles? We know that the cast of Multiverse of Madness is stacked. Are you concerned that Are you concerned about that? Like, there's so many characters in play now.
Anytime you hear about multiple villains, multiple actors, multiple like a big ensemble, it makes you wonder how they're gonna jumble everything and serve the story while giving the main character the proper space to actually have his moments.
Mhm.
So with something like this, I am curious. But then again, when you look at something like Civil War, where despite it having 10 Avengers fighting at once, it still sort of leans towards whatever they wanted to do for Steve Rogers. I imagine here with the multiverse stuff, I imagine like this Minotaur guy, he's probably gonna be there the same amount as Meek and Korg. It's not gonna be they're not gonna be like main characters in the show, but it's gonna be like super minor roles. I think America Chavez is the big question mark for me as far as how are you gonna introduce someone who can punch through other dimensions without sort of giving us an exposition dump and sort of explaining, oh, she's an interdimensional being. She looks like a human, but she's not. It's like one of those things where are they gonna give us that or are they gonna make it super simple? It's one of those things that where again we don't know. We can only guess how they're gonna do it, but hopefully they find a way to sort of make everything work because Sam Raimi's doing it. I know he's very peculiar with what movies he does. I hope the all these characters that that Kevin Feige might want put in this movie doesn't turn him off to working with Marvel down the line, similar to what it did with Edgar Wright.
Yeah. And Joe, how about your opinion about that?
Um, it- the thing is that I'm curious about the general direction because we already lost Scott Derrickson when it came to Doctor Strange
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing where I go where the one drawback, as much as we love the MCU, we do understand that there is a certain restriction when concept becomes stronger than vision. And in this regard, it's like they want to bring a lot of ideas together. To some degree, I wonder, is it also, Sam Raimi seems to be a very collaborative director. He seems to have a very he's worked together with Kevin Feige for God knows how many years now, so they have a good friendship to build on. So I don't think we're gonna see Sam Raimi, jump ship at any point. I think he has a strong hand in that. My fear is kind of if it loses its horror vibe in the direction it's going at this point, because I don't want it to be an Easter egg showcase. It's like, oh, look at him, look at him, look at him.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and to some degree, I think it's also like our fault as reporting on these topics, is that in reality, it could have absolutely no relevance. And just like Charles said, it could be a second, it could be a minute, 2 minutes that this character or whatever shows up. Like with the casting here, Rintra, he was a supporting character for in the comics who kind of was a very loyal friend to Strange, who also had magical abilities. But he wasn't, he's not like a big picture character who sticks around for most of the film. America Chavez is probably going to be like the one bigger character that appears throughout the story. It's such a difficult challenge because on one hand, I want to say, yeah, it's getting a bit much, but we thought the same thing with Endgame. We thought the same thing with Infinity War, where there were so many characters, but it still kept its focus. I think it all depends on what is the end product they're building towards,
Yeah.
and can they balance it out. And I think it's the same fear we have with Spider-Man 3. Because a lot of like multiversal stuff is kind of intertwined with that story. Who knows what else at this point? It seems like it's going to go through a lot of different elements of the stories. I'm curious. I'm really curious. I think they're. I hope that we get a bit more information. I hope these damn film delays stop so that we can actually get an idea of what's coming in the future. Um, it's all up in the air, and I'm really curious which direction they go. But hey, Rintra's in it. That's a pretty cool addition, if it turns out true. Hope he's not, maybe he's just a small cameo who helps Doctor Strange briefly when he's hit by whoever is the main big bad, which is also still the big question if it is in fact Nightmare. I'm curious. I'm really curious which direction it goes.
Yeah, it's gonna be one hell of a storyline for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We don't know what to expect. But we just know that Wanda's there, Wanda Maximoff is there, and then potentially all the other aspects of the multiverse, the Marvel multiverse will be there. I mean, other films, but let's find out next year when it premieres in theaters, hopefully on March 25th, 2022. And now let's now move on to WandaVision. Crazy episode, guys.
Yep.
WandaVision episode 6, a spectacular Halloween episode. It has that we're in the 90s now. Yay! Next week gonna go to 2000s. Okay, so there's a lot to break down, even if it's practically a 30-minute episode. Why? Come on, Marvel, give us 1-hour episodes. I was the cliffhanger at the end. Wow, I hate the credits now. When episode 4 and 5, it gave us many answers to the questions that we've been asking about in the first 3 episodes. This week's episode, gave us so many questions, even more new questions about the show's storyline, and well, Wanda's Westview is expanding in a way.
Yeah.
That's gonna be crazy, and then there's a lot of elements here. Evan Peters, Peter Maximoff shines once again because we know a little more about him, and he's asking a lot of questions, which is weird. And the twins now have powers. Wow, it's weird. But before we break that down, I just want to ask your thoughts about the episode. Charles, you first.
I love the episode, even though it's not like as far as giving us new stuff that we learn. We don't actually learn that much in this episode. We see things escalate, but as far as getting new information that we've never got, we don't really get anything new. But then again, when you see the ending and how everything's escalating, it sort of makes it all worth it. I fucking love this episode, even despite it not giving us anything new. The opening credits genuinely made me laugh when they
Yeah.
freeze frame on Vision's face while as they did they like steal the remote or something, and Vision's like, what the fuck, he's super annoyed. It really gave me a huge laugh, and seeing them sort of zoom in Agnes's butt, just like that's silly 90s pranking. It really resonated with me as a kid of the 90s. Even the music, them breaking the fourth wall, them getting powers, even seeing sort of Evan Peters act like a jackass uncle and bonding with the kids, seeing that kind of chemistry really made me happy. It made this episode very, very fun to watch. While other episodes are very scary, even though this has a very scary moment,
Mhm.
seeing Wanda and Pietro talk about their family, sort of try to quiz each other on why the accent is there, why it isn't. It was very, very fun. And it's sort of it's an to me this might be the funnest episode as far as giving us like the sitcom stuff. This was the episode I related to the most because it's the one, it's very 90s Malcolm in the Middle. Those were the kind of stuff that I grew up watching in like the Nickelodeon shows, Clarissa's, all the other stuff, Adventures of Pete and Pete. It super resonated with me, and I absolutely love their take on the episode. And obviously, I have some beefs with all the sword stuff that we can talk about later. But overall, this episode it's a win for me.
Yeah. Joe, your initial thoughts first before we break everything down.
It's a great episode. I think I still to this day think every episode that has been set up has been really, really good. And you do see that the unique aspects from the first one has slowly been mixing more with the real life MCU, and I think it was a great choice, especially for general audiences, because after the third episode, you saw that most people wanted to kind of get the ball rolling on the answers to the mystery that's set up. I agree with Charles that this episode doesn't really solve a lot. It doesn't really answer a lot of questions. But what it does do interestingly to me is that it first of all it sets up lore we've never heard about before. So we actually get a bit of a feeling about Sokovia. We get at least something of that culture that was nothing more than a backdrop in their origin. I'm also very, very curious about. There's a lot of things this episode does that breaks some formulas we've seen before.
Mhm.
And I think it sounds dumb, but we're pretty much in the end game now. The next 3 episodes are pretty much the wrap up. This was the final tilt towards that direction. And I think moving forward, there's going to be a lot of answers that need filling.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. And there's a lot to unpack here. From the comic accurate costumes, that's a win, all the way to Hayward's nefarious plans or secrets about what's really going on in Westview. But let's start with the obvious one. Evan Peters, Quicksilver. There's so much to unpack about that guy. Because yes, it's been confirmed that he is Peter Maximoff. Well, on actual credits. Oh, just a side note, Agnes is included in the credits for the first time, which is something. So Evan Peters, I mean Peter Maximoff, is asking a lot of questions to Wanda, and Wanda's trying to test him about his memory, about their life, and when that comes along, and Peter is like, hey, he changes the topic swiftly, like his speed, and so it's interesting because there's a line there, where it's a funny line when Pietro yells, "Unleash hell, demon spawns!" when he like let go of the twins when
Yeah.
trick or
Yeah.
treating. And that's really a reference. Actually, that's a reference to a storyline that revolves around Mephisto, right? Because in the comics, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a Marvel comics guy. I'm just a Marvel comic movie guy. In the comics, Mephisto, the twins are actually came from the fragments of the soul of Mephisto, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that reference. What are your theories about Quicksilver here? I'll start with you, Charles.
I might be the wrong person to ask because I've known for a while who Quicksilver
Oh, oh, sorry.
specifically is, and I can't say it here because I don't want to ruin it for everyone and I don't want to get in trouble. But
Okay.
I will say a lot of fans are definitely over hyping who Quicksilver is. That's
Mhm.
who I'll say. That's all that I can say about it. Like all the theories about him seem to get more outrageous as the weeks go by, and it might set people up for disappointment with all the stuff that they're building up in their heads. Oh, he's Mephisto. Oh, he's this guy. You know,
Yeah.
and I worry that people might start shitting on the show when their expectations aren't met.
Yeah.
So I will say that don't get too crazy with your theories. But I mean specifically that specific code where the hellspawn demon hellspawn thing, it is very peculiar. I was also like, I see what they're doing there. It's a clever way to drive fans even crazier.
Yeah. Disclaimer: I didn't know if you know who Evan Peters
No,
is.
it's cool. It's cool.
All right. Let me rephrase my question to Joe. Um. Oh man, it's hard to rephrase. Just want to ask, what are your thoughts about Evan Peters' performance here in this episode?
Oh man, I hoped I was going to get to do the theories to break exactly what Charles said not to do. I think his performance, it's a really great. He fits in right into the '90s. The uncle or the family member who's a bit more rambunctious. He performs it extremely well. I was surprised. Like the big question I had going into this episode is, are we going to see him use his speed ability? And if we do, what would it look like? Because the MCU tried to be very distinctive with how Quicksilver moved in the original. And I kind of love that the opening of this episode had Pietro from Age of Ultron, so Aaron Taylor Johnson getting shot, which I thought was like the darkest recap of a beginning of an episode. Is like, oh, here's that scene where he gets shot in the arm. I was like, oh yeah, okay. I think his performance great. I'm really, really curious. So the thing is what I like what they're doing with his character is that they're kind of for what right now they're hinting at is that he is in fact someone who seems to know something about Wanda and Pietro in their history, but something's off. Like he seems to be avoiding certain questions. He's playing them back, so he's a bit defensive about it. But he still has the super speed ability. He still has pretty much. He feels like the character from the X-Men films from the personality wise, because both versions were a bit cocky in a way, but I'm really sad, and this is something that I only thought about after our last recording. I'm really sad that when she opened the frickin' door, he didn't see that one coming, did you? I was like, that would have been so perfect.
Yeah.
It's a great. I think it's a great performance. I like the actor. I really hope it might not be true, but I do hope that we get more of him in the MCU moving forward because I think he does offer something rather unique.
Yeah.
It's so hard to talk about the character because we know, we don't know everything about him. We don't know why he suddenly showed up, and they play on that 90s cliche and that 80s cliche so incredibly well. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I have no idea. I'm still holding on to my Simon Williams theory because I just think it's a fun little twist on it all. But then there's I don't know, are we gonna talk spoilers yet, or we want to wait for that?
Yeah, spoilers for this episode. Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
because the one thing that confused me, and this is one thing that kind of breaks the entire aspect of the story, is that we know that it has to be Vision's actual body in this bubble, in this hex. Because first of all, the vibranium decay analysis is pinpointing where he is, so that has to be his vibranium body. We saw her take his body from where it was, and that opened up the questions like, okay, is he actually that the dead version we saw in episode 3, or is he? But when he left the hex, he was normal, was being split apart. So all of that kind of makes you question when she was looking at Quicksilver, and we had that beautifully return of that jump scare where it's just like his dead eyes, his the bullet wounds and the bleached skin, where you go, why was that not Aaron Taylor Johnson? Why was it this version of the character? And that's where it slowly starts seeping in that either I to some degree I don't think it's a they say it's a recast. First of all, it would have been amazing if Aaron Taylor Johnson would have just showed up for one scene as his own corpse.
Oh my god, that'd be like the best cameo ever.
Right? I was almost sad that wasn't his cameo in the entire. Like, I would have, even if he just showed up, it was like green screen, it was bad. That would have been amazing. But it opens up the question, why did she see this particular version of Pietro with the bullet wounds in the same kind of dead state that she remembered him by? So it kind of becomes for me the question is, if she like last time I said, is the tragedy is that she can't remember her brother's true face.
Yeah,
it's just an interesting thing, and there's a lot of like we're going like the general type is it just confirms her grief, her trying to avoid reality with all of this hex and everything. And it's Evan Peters plays it perfectly, and their banter with each other, their dynamic. It felt like this could have been her version of Pietro, even if we know it wasn't. And there's so many aspects about it, and I really hope the next episodes start answering things, because I kind of want to know what's going on.
Yeah, it's really fast. It's a mystery, and I can't wait to find out. It's one of these two things. First is either sent by someone or something, or he is actually the one pulling the strings, and he just places himself in there, and then disappointing fans around the globe that he's not Quicksilver. There's that. Those are the two sides of the coin, and it's going to be a huge part in this final 3 episodes because it's been teased by Kevin Feige, by Paul Bettany, by Elizabeth Olsen, that the last 3 episodes will be like the MCU films that we know and love. That's the code, and we can't wait to find out. Um, Another mystery here is we didn't talk about this last 2 weeks. The mysterious aerospace engineer that Monica contacted. His guy is in the bridge already, so I guess we will find that out next episode. There's a lot of theories going around on social media, of course. Joe, you know what I'm talking about. When there's so many, you can't pinpoint exactly what's this, and there's even there's a leak somewhere in that trend that I saw accidentally. Damn it! So, and just wanna ask you guys, 'cause we didn't talk about this. Who do you think is this aerospace engineer? I think it's a safe question. Charles?
It's probably someone that, again, very low key. Like, I saw someone say it might be Riri Williams, which again makes so much sense, given that they've cast her. She's an easy character to introduce here, or it could be what's his name, Adam Brashear, Blue Marvel, because he had a thing with Monica in the comics, and he's a pretty important character down the road. Um, I'm willing to bet that it's not fucking Reed Richards. I think that's just one of the most, like, why would you
Yeah.
fucking put Reed Richards in a fucking 1 minute WandaVision cameo? Like, that's his MCU debut. He's been treated like shit since the Roger Corman movie in the 90s, and here he just appears in like a cameo. It feels so unceremonial for me to to bring in Reed Richards in that way, which I think Kevin Feige is aware of. Like, if it is fucking Reed Richards, I will be so disappointed that they went that route. And I'm very confident that they're not gonna go that route. So I think
Yeah.
it's probably either Riri or Blue Marvel, Adam Brashear.
Yeah. And it's being teased in the past 2 episodes. Fans already like saying that this is going to be a game changer. Joe, do you think that this upcoming episode will feature this guy, and do you think that this will be a game changer for the MCU? This introduction of this particular character only.
I think definitely next. I mean, I hope they've been building it up, and pretty much the whole point of why Monica and Jimmy left is because they were going to meet them. So if they don't meet next episode, I'm going to be very confused. I'm completely on board with Charles. It can't, don't be Reed Richards. That would be such an underselling of this character, just to kind of shoehorn him into this story. And it feels like, to some degree, I think a lot of our theories are getting so bloated because we haven't had any Marvel content in over a year, and there's just so many properties connected to this story surrounding Wanda that we're kind of, because I've seen people say, oh, they mentioned a kid with a skin thing, it has to be Doctor Doom. It's like, why? Why does it always have to be such major characters? It could just be a random kid with a skin problem. Or it's Toad. We don't know. But I think Riri Williams makes the most sense if you consider that they've already cast her. The only thing that would, in my opinion, kind of go against that is maybe she's a little young to be a full-on, either she's a prodigy that already finished college, but a big part of her character was that she was kind of balancing being a college student while also being a superhero, which I think would be a waste not to go into, because we're getting high school with Miss Marvel, so you have a college student with a very different life. But I think what could be an interesting thing is, I'll up Charles's bet. What if it's both? What if it's her main contact is Blue Marvel, and Riri Williams is pretty much he works on these theoretical
Ooh,
aerospace now stuff, and Riri Williams is pretty much his assistant that joins him because that's her
Wow,
internship.
I wouldn't hate it.
I
It,
love that.
it would be a great way to introduce both characters. Plus, that would set up Blue Marvel for future appearances. Um, we don't know. I think it's going to be revealed next episode, but I think that would be pretty sneaky way because let's be honest. As much as Riri Williams is a bigger character now, and Ironheart has been announced, a general audience won't have any idea who both of these characters are. It's
Yeah,
not going to be this huge revelation that people want it to be, and I think it doesn't have to be because I feel like there's something else bigger underneath the thing that needs to be focused on. This is just a build up in a classic television sense is that a character is coming. And I don't expect like Reed Richards to show up or Doctor Doom or whatnot. As interesting as it would be, it's just not worth these characters to kind of shoehorn them in for a brief cameo. But a character like Riri Williams or Blue Marvel that has potential to spin off in their own stories, where we already know they have one, and they're slowly being introduced to the general audience, that I can completely see.
yeah. And just one question, guys: is Blue Marvel is the member of the Ultimates? Am I correct?
Yeah, he's part of the new Ultimates team.
Yeah.
He's one of those characters where they retconned into the Marvel universe and like made him like the most powerful character ever. Like similar
Wow.
to Sentry, where he isn't a character that's always existed before, but they wrote it as if he existed before. Yeah, Blue Marvel is a pretty big deal as far as powers go.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty cool, I guess, tie if they bring him in. You know.
Before we break down the ending, I just want to go sideways and go talk about Tyler Hayward's encrypted files in in this episode. It's a lot. I mean, what is he hiding? Is he
Yeah.
because his attention shifted from Wanda in the past episode now to this episode? It's now being directed at Vision because he's tracking Vision, right? And
Yeah.
it's weird because Darcy's trying to break the firewall. I love Darcy. Oh my god, I love Darcy. By the way, her Catherine's performance is top notch every week. Can't wait to see her in sitcom world next week. And what do you think is going on here? Because we've known that based on previous camera footage in the sword facility that they're doing something with Vision's body. I don't know why, just it's there. But he's evil, right? Are we all same board on that? He's evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that's my beef with the episode is how they're really ramping up to show. Oh, he's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. You thought he was nice. No, he's bad. He's bad. I kind of hate how that heel turn is so I guess amplified in this episode where previous episode he's kind of like a hard-headed no nonsense guy. Well, here he's just like a total asshole. And to me that kind of feels contrived in a way where it's such a generic thing to treat a white collar character as a guy who's just evil just because. Like I kind of wish they gave him a different angle and just made him like a different character because I mentioned it in our Slack chat in Murphy's Multiverse like how like it feels like a very Agents of Shield villain currently. Seeing Hayward be the asshole, like how many characters like Hayward has Coulson faced throughout these 7, 8
And
seasons of Shield, where it's kind of like the same guy Coulson butts heads with, and here it's like the same thing, and it's kind of disappointing to see them go a route that's so safe and generic, and even the way he kicks out Monica, uh, Darcy and Jimmy out of the compound seems so forced. It's kind of like really, you really wanted to separate these two teams, so you wanted to kick them out right away. And Monica's the fucking she's the daughter of the founder of the
yeah,
thing of Sword. Can you really just kick her out? Like what the fuck is the chain of command here? She gets kicked out like she's some Sword intern, like she's Darcy who's not even working for Sword. It's so weird. It's so forced and kind of hammy to an extent. And I know that they're they're building something up with regards to what Hayward is keeping a secret, and I understand that. I just kind of wish that they gave him a different, I guess, angle or a different layer or a different dimension to him where he's not just like a predictable generic Agents of Shield bad guy.
Yeah, and it's really weird to see him like he's like a good guy, sort of, episode 4, and then after 2 episodes, like this asshole who's trying to hide everything from
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
Joe, how about you? Your thoughts about this, Dick Tyler Hayward?
I do agree that his turn to evil from last episode to this episode has been a bit jarring in a way, but I kind of think that what they're trying to imply is that there's more to this character. It's just weird how kind he was in the beginning to Monica, and now he just is like, get the
Yeah.
hell out of here, and it's weird, and then like the whole speech is like, you people who were snapped, you're lucky you still have hope. It's like these people literally lost their entire body for 5 years, and you're trying to pretend like they had it better.
Yeah.
It's a weird scenario that's being set up, and a lot of people are saying that Hayward isn't exactly Hayward. I think that could be an interesting story to set up. Um, I'm curious. I'm generally curious where they're going to go with Sword moving forward, because they're pretty much screwed. The expansion has started. I do think the next episode is going to be them at that circus that's created now. That seems the most likely next direction. Or we've seen in trailers like they're constantly, this is our neighborhood, we have to fight for it. How hilarious would it be is to see Vision and Scarlet Witch fight freaking clowns?
That's hilarious.
It's just
Yeah.
a clown battle.
One thing I realize now, guys, we will not have at least a good chunk outside of scenes outside Westview now because it expanded, right? Because the only possible scenes outside of Westview is the meeting between Monica and his guy, right? Technically,
Yeah.
because Sword facility is already there inside Westview. I mean, inside the
Well,
X.
Hayward got away.
Oh yeah, there's that too. Damn it, he got away.
Plus, like
He should have been a clown.
I
Yeah.
was so annoyed how Darcy just gets fucking handcuffed and they fucking left her. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
level of incompetence Sword kind of has, kind of top Shield. Like they're kind of like buffoons in a way where like Jimmy and Monica just beat some of them up, and they weren't like even harassing them. They were just like walking with them out to the compound, and they get beat up, and then no one notices it. They only notice once Darcy just randomly, runs into sort of stop Vision stuff, and it's like just the level of, I guess, security this place has is so light. Like Darcy didn't even seem to be scared to hack um Hayward's files. She does it in 2 seconds, which is again one of the crazy things I've seen in a show that's really crazy. To me, that's probably the craziest thing where Darcy
That's it.
opens the laptop and hacks Hayward's files in 2 seconds. I was like, really? Are we gonna go there? But again, I understand in the big picture they really have to sort of streamline some of these things, but it's one of those things that really, really annoyed me.
I'm kind of
Oh,
sad that it wasn't. I kind of think that would have been a really cool moment to give that to Jimmy,
Exactly, yeah.
because Darcy's already she's a doctorate physicist and also part-time super hacker. And I'm kind of sad that it wasn't Jimmy who had the chance to just hack through it, but I'm okay with it to some degree. I feel like that they're trying to set up. We did see that Darcy is pretty good at doing various things, but you know, Jimmy's the character who I think deserves more to do in these episodes. And that's
Uh,
my main problem with his. Like, I think Jimmy, FBI agent, who we've seen, he is a competent guy. If he just hacked that out straight out from his training
yeah.
with a nice little liner, would have given it a bit more gravitas than Darcy jumping in and figuring it all out in seconds.
yeah. Darcy's like the girl in the chair from that certain Agents of Shield cast. Remember? Who knows?
Her real name is Sky.
Oh yeah. Now, guys, let's talk about this ending because we're gonna spend a lot of time, at least, in this ending. The hex has expanded in a way, and this is going to have pretty massive ramifications in the real world MCU. And this is not going to be unnoticed by anyone, like specifically certain sorcerers free. And wow, we all know that Monica's cells are now like different because of her involvement in that barrier. And with this hex expanding into more areas, what do you think is the effect of this to people within it? Do you think that it will do the same to Monica, or it will only be selective? Joe?
Um, I kind of think that what they're implying with Monica is that she kind of got shot through it twice, and that was the effect that hit her. Because everyone else, I think, like the inhabitants, they were only hit once, and the people from Sword, they also kind of only got hit once. It's a tough thing to say what direction they're really going for. I think that it shouldn't be like everyone who got touched by this barrier should suddenly have mystical powers. I think it's just that they're implying. I kind of have the theory, and this may sound stupid, but that Monica might already had her abilities before she entered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she her entire the graph was white before she even went in, and everyone's like, oh god, what? How did that happen? And it's like I think she just already knew something was up with her DNA, and that they're implying some kind of history with Captain Marvel that may also inform that. It's a really interesting kind of concept, and I'm curious how they're going to move forward with it. But I don't see anyone getting abilities from this, and I kind of hope not. I don't want people to start theorizing, will Darcy Lewis finally have some kind of laser eye vision or
Oh
whatnot?
God.
Oh my God, no.
She's
Oh
already a super hacker on addition to being a scientist, so.
yeah.
Joe, what if Darcy exhibits quake powers? Just
Oh
kidding.
my God.
Yes.
Holy shit.
That would be hilarious. I'm not gonna lie.
Just kidding.
Darcy Lewis was the original Daisy Johnson.
The Prime MCU, the Prime Earth.
Though one thing I am curious about with Darcy Lewis is, will we get her as a waitress in the next episode?
Two broke girls reference right there. It's gonna be a missed opportunity if they didn't do that. Charles, how about you? What are your thoughts about the expanding of that barrier?
I'm curious, as we saw, the sword employees that get trapped end up becoming clowns. I wonder if that's a conscious thing Wanda's doing, where, if you're an asshole to her, you're gonna end up looking like a fool in her world. But I'm curious what the implications are, because it kind of like at this point it's definitely like an Avengers sort of level incident where, oh shit, we have to contain this sword can't do shit to fucking stop this. And
Yeah, they can't.
it's hard for me to imagine that, it's just gonna be Sword who ends up stopping this, which is why I think Strange is at some point gonna show up here. They have to call in the big guns, and yeah, things are just only going to escalate. And next episode is gonna be interesting, specifically how they're gonna address this. Like, well, I want to know what Vision's gonna think when he finds out. Wait, you made this thing bigger. You brought more people into this shit show. I can't wait for that fight between Vision and Wanda to happen.
Yeah, and just want to point it out that Wanda did it while wearing her comic accurate costume, which is nuts. Wow, looks great, red eyes and everything. Just want to ask your thoughts about this, guys, about this particular scene. When she blasted Pietro with her hex, um, do you think that she already knows that that's not her brother? Charles, Joe, Charles first.
Uh, I think she's kind of like conscious that this isn't the brother I knew, but she's kind of like she's happy because it kind of seems like her brother, and someone's there for her. I think Wanda's always been the person that she just wants people to be in her life. She just wants that warmth that she never got growing up because of all the stuff that's been happening in Sokovia. But now, there's someone here who is claiming to be her brother. Her kids love him.
Mhm.
He's kind of nice to him, a bit of a jackass. So I don't think that's because, oh shit, you're not Pietro. Fuck you. I just think that Evan Peters crossed the line, sort of making a dead Vision joke. And
Yeah.
the whole point, the reason why Wanda's doing this is because Vision died. And for someone to make fun of that, I think that definitely, hit a nerve.
Yeah. The usual brother sister fight. Joe,
Yeah.
how about you?
Um, yeah, I do think she's kind of mistrusting. We see it a lot with her asking him questions, trying to check if they have the same memories. Especially with the flashback where she's like, I had that different in mind. Though I would love to know how different it was because that sequence was kind of hilarious. Um, yeah, I think it was more of a reaction because of the line. I think she doesn't trust him, but she kind of also was confident in talking to him about the whole hex thing. So for her, she probably thinks he might be my brother, but not 100%. And just, he went out of line. She got pissed and was like, okay, time out, and just shot him.
Yeah. And can't wait to see more of that
Yeah.
next week because the aftermath of that shot, like of that fight, it's gonna be interesting to find out. And also, the ramifications of the hex banding of the barrier, because at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, the big gun that is necessary to at least pacify Wanda or whoever the one pulling the string, or Agnes, or I don't know who, or Herb, or I don't, or Dottie. I don't. There's a lot of theories already. It's Doctor Strange, right? Is the likely candidate. Aside
Yeah.
from Doctor Strange, I don't know who else, right?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I mean, even from an insider's perspective, we don't know if Marvel any has if they have more surprises in store for us. I mean, I hope they. I'm always game for surprise, but it kind of
Yeah.
seems like Doctor Strange is the most logical one.
I also hope Wong comes along, just for that comic relief as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, and let's go to our rankings. I mean, episode score for WandaVision, episode 6. Okay, me first. My episode score is 9/10. I really hate the cliffhanger, but I understand Marvel. I understand you guys, but I really hate it when the credits roll because man, it was right there. It was right there. I want more, and I realized I need to wait a week to find out what happens. But the good news is, it's the final 3 episodes is Act 3 of WandaVision. So yay, more surprises, more fights, more action-packed scenes. Let's go. Let's do it. And I can't wait to find out how this will go. Charles, to you. Score for WandaVision episode 6.
I think it's the nice thing about WandaVision is because the episodes are so good. Like the episodes are always gonna be either an 8 or a 9 or a 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one for me is an 8. I like last episodes. Uh, I ranked it higher than this because I just had more stuff to like in the past episode, but this one's pretty cool too. So it's an 8.
8/10. Got it.
Yeah.
Joe, how about you?
I'm kind of in the middle. I'll give it an 8.5.
Mhm.
It's inching towards 9. The only thing is that my one complaint is that this was the one episode where its short length felt a bit like a drawback because the story that was being told kind of ended a little too early for me personally. And it's a great episode. The 90s, the sitcoms. I'm kind of sad they didn't embrace other sitcoms more, like Friends or stuff like that. It felt like it was very, very focused on Malcolm in the Middle, which was unusual because the other ones always had elements of different sitcoms coming together. So that it was a really good sitcom episode. I love the relationship being built up between her and Evan Peters' version of Quicksilver. Um, it just feels like it's a bit of more of a setup episode, so that's why it's not quite the 9 yet for me personally.
Yeah. And So it's 8.59 average. It's 8 something, 8 point something. Well, that's a good episode. At least it's not below 7, and can't wait to find out how this will go in the next coming weeks. Before we wrap up, what's your episode runtime prediction for episode 7? Mine is 45 minutes. How about you, Charles?
Yeah, probably be around that mark. If it's 50, I'd be super surprised if it's like in the 50 mark.
Yeah, Joe.
I'll say 50 with credits.
Oh, yeah,
Oof.
50 with credits. Let's find out. How about you guys, our listeners? What's your take? What's your prediction for the episode runtime of episode 7 of WandaVision? Please do tweet us over at twitter.com/MCUExchange. You can also listen to our episodes, MCUExchange podcast episodes on Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, and that's it. And you can also follow me on Twitter. That's twitter.com/Aaronchino. That's AERONCHINO. You can also follow Charles on Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter at CFS Villanueva.
You can also follow Joe on Twitter.
I'm at that Abel, ThatAberl.
And thank you everyone for listening to another jam-packed MCUExchange podcast episode. We're gonna talk about WandaVision next week again, and hopefully we get more answers than questions. This has been episode 47 of the MCUExchange podcast. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.